Welcome to today's episode of G's World. Today we're going to look at doing some baking and hopefully teach everyone out there how to make a nice, simple, quick and easy, tasty treat that the students can do at home without any help from their parents. But you know, the parents want to kind of keep an eye and watch. It's always a good thing to do. But I want to start off before I get into the recipe and get into the details. I want to apologize up front to any home economic teachers out there that may be watching. I am by no imagination a substitute for the great job that you guys do in your classrooms with your students. And you know, it's easy for me to do this on video at home, but I would never want to do what you guys do in the classroom. So what we're going to be making today is banana bread, which is one of my favorites. I love it. It tastes great. It's nice and sweet. So I've got my KitchenAid mixer here, which is great. I've already pre-measured some of the ingredients ahead of time, so to save us from doing that. So we're going to start off with 2 cups of flour, just regular white all-purpose flour. We're going to add that in. Then I'm going to add in a teaspoon of baking powder. It's actually 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And for those people who are interested in the recipe, what I'm going to do is when I post the video onto YouTube, I'll actually put the recipe down into the description. So some baking powder. Now I'm going to add in some salt. So we measure, it's supposed to be about 1/4 teaspoon. That looks about right. Okay. And then I've got for this one too 1/2 cup of sugar. So that's all my dry ingredients that I've added in. So I'm just going to give this a quick little mix with my mixer. I got a little splash going in the flour, but that's okay. And it's just to kind of mix all the dry ingredients together. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in some of the wet ingredients. So I've got 1/2 cup of milk. Now, one of my children has an allergy to dairy, so I don't use regular milk. I use oat milk in my recipe. I think it gives it a nice taste, and it also makes it allergy friendly for him because there's no dairy product. I'm going to add in 1 egg. Okay, and a lot of times when I go to places and you know, have him with me and we talk about his dairy allergy, a lot of people sometimes will say, oh, well, it has eggs in it. Well, guess what? Eggs come from chickens, not cows. So eggs are good. He can have eggs. Okay, so we've got the milk and the eggs. So I'm going to add in some mushed up bananas. So ripe bananas. So when we make banana bread, obviously, we need to have bananas in the mix. And if we don't have the bananas, then it's very hard to call it banana bread. So we're going to put this down here. Give it a mix together. You can see you got a little bit of flour coming out of the sides, but that's okay. That's going to happen. Okay, and one of the things too it calls for is a 1/4 cup of oil. Now, what I like to do is I measure out 1/4 cup, and obviously whenever you're doing a recipe, following the recipe is a good thing. But you know, sometimes here in G's World, we're not always great at following recipes. So I'm going to add in what I look at as an appropriate amount of oil for what I'm making. It's a little less than 1/4 cup, but it serves the purpose. I don't want it to be too heavy, and you can see the oil kind of splashed out there when I turned it up too high. But I don't want it to be too heavy because I don't want it to be too dense. I want a nice banana bread when I'm finished. It's going to be tasty and sweet. So as we're mixing this together, I've also got some vanilla that we're going to add. The recipe calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. That's about right. Okay, and we're going to mix in. And now for my banana bread, I like to add a couple of little things to it. So I've got some chopped walnuts here. So I'm going to add those in. And again, for my recipe, depends on how much you want in the banana bread. I like to have like a bite in every bite, or a taste in every bite. So I don't normally measure in the walnuts. I just kind of throw them in there. And I'm also going to add some dairy-free chocolate chips. Oh, sorry, a little drop there. Bet you didn't know you could get dairy-free chocolate chips, but you can. And so these are perfectly safe for my son with his allergy, and they're very tasty. And actually, they're not chips, they're actually chunks. So big chunks of chocolate, and we're going to dump those in. Again, probably should have a measurement amount, but here at G's World, we follow the recipe most times, but sometimes we just like to have a little bit of fun and throw in what we think is going to be delicious. So we're going to take out our mixer top here, scrape it all off. Now I got my handy dandy silicone spoon here, I'm going to give this a nice mix together. Okay, put my top away. So we're going to sneak into the cupboard here and grab some cooking spray. I'm going to spray off my pan. Again, you know, cleaning up afterwards is the key. So I want to give it a good dose so that it doesn't stick. We've got our oven preheated to 350 degrees, which is what we're going to cook this at. And I'm going to give this another little flip here. Nice. Tap off. Take it off the mixer. And now we're just going to kind of pour this in. So you can kind of see here. I'll move this here so you can get a good look. Okay, kind of pour in our dough. All right, make sure we get all the parts. I'm doing this left-handed here, which is kind of backwards for me. But that's the way the camera's set up for me, so I wanted to make sure everyone could see. And you can see, because it's left-handed, I'm making a little mess there as I go. So just to make sure I get all of it, I'm going to switch around, because you're able to see most of that get in there. And the thing about baking is, you know, it's something that you can kind of put the product or the item you're making in the oven and let it cook, but it is kind of a bit messy sometimes, and it does require cleanup. So you can see here that, you know, I'm not always the tidiest, but I do like to try to keep things as neat as possible. So we'll get some of this mess cleaned up here, and we'll clean off the sides. So as you can see here, we got our delicious looking banana bread. I'm going to tap it down, make sure it gets spread out. And then we're going to pop it in the old oven here, 350 degrees. It says about an hour to make it. I'm going to set my timer at 45 minutes and come back and check it. And then we'll come back at that time and see how it came out. But I'm sure it's going to be tasty and delicious. So, our cake is done. Our banana bread is done. And now we're going to take it out of the oven. All right, and see how it came out. Oh, excellent. Looks great. So, a little bit hot, but you know, when you got hands of steel like myself, it's all good. So we're just going to transfer it over and everyone will have a look. And delicious. So try it at home and enjoy.